We received a call from the racetrack convenience store clerk up there off of US 19. He had been approached by some citizens stating there was a fight in the parking lot where two men were holding down a third man down in the parking lot. So the call came in as a fight in progress. We sent just two of our patrol deputies. Prior to their arrival, the video what you'll be seeing will dictate the information that I'm synopsizing. What we found during investigations, we had two males that approached a third person who's sitting in his car at the gas pumps. These two males had gotten out of a pickup truck which had pulled in front of this male who had parked next to the gas pumps. The male was sitting there doing whatever he was doing. The two males went to his driver's side, which was open, and then they had an immediate physical confrontation with him. What we found out during this investigation is that he didn't know anybody, and all of a sudden two people were essentially attacking him. He tried to pick up his cell phone, call 911. One of the males knocked the phone out of his hand. They got him or took him out of the car. There's a physical confrontation, 2 versus 1. They get him essentially at some point after a beating into a chokehold and take him down onto the ground. Other citizens see this going on, and then you'll see that at least one citizen ran into the convenience store clerk, told them to call 911 because of this fight. We found out that the two males, one was a retired lieutenant from the Hernando County Sheriff's Office. He had a previous employee here in the 90s. I don't know him. I have no comment reference to his employment here at the Sheriff's Office. There was also a third person, a female, that was involved in this. So we, at the end of it, we found that we were very justified in what we call probable cause to believe that we had false imprisonment, burglary, auto, which means that someone reached into the car and battered somebody inside that car, and then also some statute involving him trying to call 911. What we also know is that there was a road rage incident that occurred in Hernando County around US 19 and State Road 50 involving a female who's party to this incident and the male that was the victim. That incident traveled down US 19. At some point they were disconnected from one another. The male victim tells us that he thought it was over. He says that this female cut him off. They exchanged what we would not call pleasantries, some finger gestures and of those, and then he was done with it. So he gets to the racetrack, and then our evidence shows that he had no confrontation with anybody other than sitting in his car, much like you would be, getting ready to pump gas, make a phone call, and all of a sudden two people are in the door jam, physically attacking him and pulling him out of his car. There's about 7 minutes of a physical confrontation. He lost the fight. At some point after the physical beating, he's put into a chokehold, and he ends up face down on the ground with at least one of these aggressors, which is the older gentleman, the father, standing over him. And then
is that the woman?
That is the woman that's involved in this. She's related to both of those men.
When you say related?
She is a suspect in this case right now. So I'd like to keep it within the parameters that she's related to both of them, and she's the one that was in the road rage incident with the victim. She contacted those men in that truck and told them exactly where the victim was. He had no idea that he had been followed after the 19 and State Road 50 confrontation.
And what's she doing to him? Yeah. What's she doing there?
That's something that we're looking at if we have battery charges where we have the unlawful touching. We know that at some point in this video, one of those males goes back into the victim's car and actually elicits the help of a unsuspecting bystander. They rummage through his car. We don't have anything in that car to suggest that there was a weapon or anything that could have been used to either provoke this confrontation or to help protect himself.
So did Peter Succi, did he let these bystanders know that he was either former or current law enforcement? We
know that he told at least one person on the scene there who had walked up that he was retired law enforcement, and that's one of our beliefs is that when they walked up there, that's why no one else engaged in trying to do anything to break this fight up.
Was he trying to use his status as ex-law enforcement to keep people away?
Well, that's a very good question. That's part of our investigation because we are extremely sensitive to anybody purporting law enforcement, whether or not present law enforcement or ex. We know that for some reason these other citizens showed enough concern to go up there, but not engage in trying to break this up, and we're left with a belief that A, he was retired or something to do with law enforcement, and the person he had in that chokehold was a bad guy, that he was down on the ground.
Could there be, two questions, could there be enhanced charges when the state reviews the case as far as possibly increasing it to a aggravated battery, one question, and also with this other person, is it possible that she could be facing like a principal to the crime, some type of charge like that?
Yes, the answer is yes to both your questions.
Okay.
She could be looking at criminal charges involving felonies, involving principal. In our sense means you were a party to it, you might have helped orchestrate it or had some part of it, even though you may not have been directly physically involved in it.
Hypothetical, if this had gone in a worse circumstance, let's just say the victim in this case was armed and he had taken matters into his own hands to protect himself, would that, hypothetically, do you think there would possibly some justification in that instance?
If there was something where this victim felt that he had the capacity to defend himself, we've seen it where there's shootings that instantly take place, and then we get into the issue about justifiable homicide, and we see that pretty much consistently through the weeks. If this victim had a weapon, would he have used it? Only he can answer that question. Would he have been justified in using it? The statutes allow for you to defend yourself and those in your property to those extents possible. This could have ended up with people dead. That's our position in it.
How important is this piece of tape in establishing who the aggressor was?
You get there and you have a he said. In this case, he said, she said, he said. So the evidence doesn't lie. The picture tells us the story from the true, silent, independent witness. There's no partiality. It's there. So when we first got there, our first instinct is the person that's on the ground must have done something to deserve being on the ground and choked out. Looking at the video, we quickly almost had a 180-degree change here and say, okay, now we're looking at this differently. This tells the story. And then it's corroborated by not only the video, other independent witnesses, and then we look at the victim's statement versus the suspects, or even vice versa. What collaborates each other and is supported by this. And that's what we arrived at. We're making charges and people are going to jail.